Poisoned, Nangong Aochen. While Bailey Hongzhuang was recuperating, news spread that Nangong Aochen was seriously ill. The group was at a loss. Even the alchemist masters of the Alchemist Guild were unable to think of a solution. This disease is truly rare. No matter how much they researched, they could not solve it. After the news spread, everyone was surprised. They didn't know how the good crown prince could have such a strange disease. Only members of the royal family knew that Nangong Aochen fell into such a situation because of the elixir fed to him by Bailey Hongzhuang. Today, Nangong Aochen is already delirious, and his body is losing weight at an extremely rapid rate. If a cure cannot be found, then Nangong Aochen is likely to die. This news is undoubtedly a bolt from the blue for the Qingshao Kingdom royal family. Nangong Aochen is understood to be the best successor of the Qingshao Kingdom royal family. No matter what the aspect is, he is a best choice. However, now that Nangong Aochen has fallen into such a situation and Nangong Xiujie has been assassinated, if Nangong Aochen cannot recover, then there will really be no suitable candidate for the next ruler of Qingshao Kingdom. A cheerful smile appeared on Xia Jiqing's face. Those who persist in doing evil will self-destruct. What the royal family of Qingshao Kingdom did was so disgusting. Nangong Aochen deserves to have ended up this way. I can't wait for Nangong Aochen to die. Whenever I think of Nangong Aochen and Nangong Oi's appearance that day, I can't help but want to kill them myself. Zhang Yinfeng's voice was resolute. The huge royal family actually wanted to kill them just to create a favorable image for Nangong Aochen. Even though it has been a few days, she can still vividly remember the original situation, and her hatred for Qingshao Kingdom could not be quelled. Not only Zhang Yinfeng, Cui Haoyan and the others did not have the slightest positive impression of Nangong Aochen and the others. If the other party died, they would feel happy. In that situation back then, the royal family completely oppressed people with their power and didn't even take their lives into consideration. Most importantly, they didn't do anything wrong, and the royal family's actions were totally unacceptable. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression is calm. Among all people, she probably hates the royal family of Qingshao Kingdom the most. Xia Jiqing and the others are all her friends, but just to put Nangong Aochen into the limelight, they wanted to wipe them out. Instead, she obliterated Nangong Aochen. She has never been soft-hearted towards her enemies. As early as when she fed poison to Nangong Aochen, she had already made up her mind that Nangong Aochen must die. Not only that, members of the royal family must also be punished. Since he wanted them to be a stepping stone for Nangong Aochen, she will make the entire royal family pay for it. Chu Jiao and others were very helpless. Nangong Oi invited them into the palace to detoxify Nangong Aochen, but they had never seen such a rare poison. Even though they have tried every possible way, it still didn't work. The toxin is simply beyond their understanding. Almost at the first moment of contact with this poison, Chu Jiao and others had already determined that the person who poisoned Nangong Aochen was a master of using poisons. Otherwise, this poison would not be so difficult to solve. However, according to Nangong Oi, this poison was actually made by Bailey Hongzhuang. When they heard the news, they couldn't believe it. There is a big difference between an alchemist and a poisoner. Most of the alchemists following alchemy formulas to make pills, but a poison master studies medicine. It seems similar, but it is completely different. Difficult, Chu Jiao. They have understood Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in alchemy to a certain extent, but they had no idea that Bailey Hongzhuang had such a talent in the poison arts. The first time they heard about it, they couldn't believe it. It is incredible that someone as young as Bailey Hongzhuang can achieve such results in cultivation, alchemy and inscriptions. Poison techniques are equally complex and the effort required to delve into this field is certainly not small. How could Bailey Hongzhuang have so much energy to study these things? If this is the case, Bailey Hongzhuang is really a genius. However, the confident tone of Nangong Ouyang left no room for doubt. With his identity, if he said so, there must be enough solid evidence. With the existence of Bewitching, Nangong Oi could not use his power to pressure Bailey Hongzhuang to save Nangong Aochen. Because of what happened earlier, Bailey Hongzhuang probably hated him to the extreme, so if he went to ask for an antidote, it would absolutely be futile. Nangongui knew that the relationship between Chu Jio and Huan Chuyu was very good. As long as Chu Jio and the three helped, Nangong Aochen might still have a chance. As for this, Chu Jio and the other two could be said to be exceptionally helpless. Although they did not watch the final match, news travels fast and they also learned about the final's outcome. To put it simply, this is the royal family using their power to oppress people. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang gave Nangong Aochen poison, it was probably because she felt she couldn't survive, so she poisoned him. If it were them, no matter how magnanimous they might be, they would not be able to give out the antidote. After all, it was the royal family who wanted to take their lives. They were just forced to counterattack. In my opinion, it is absolutely impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to give up with the antidote. Chen Yu's tone was full of certainty. Although he only met Bai Li Hongzhuang at the alchemy competition, he knows that Bai Li Hongzhuang is a person with strong opinions and is not easily swayed. Just from Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment of Wei Hanyun, one could see that she has never been lenient towards her enemies. Now it is undoubtedly very difficult for them to ask Bailey Hongzhuang for the elixir. However, dealing with the emperor's command is difficult. They have stayed in Qingshao Kingdom for many years, and the royal family has taken good care of them. If possible, they would like to avoid this matter. It's true that the royal family has gone too far in this matter. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang, being the wife of Di Beichen, is not afraid of the royal family, so it is really difficult. Lin Hao's eyes reflected a little helplessness, as this kind of thing is really difficult for them to do. We're just going to give it a try. If Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to, there's nothing we can do. Chu Jio's face was also held a contemplative expression. They didn't guarantee that they would be successful, they were just going to inquire because of the years of the royal family's support over the years. If Bailey Hongzhuang was not willing, they would not force her. I just hope Elder Huan doesn't think that we're in league with the royal family, sigh. Lin Hao sighed. They have known Huan Chuyu for many years, and this time Huan Chuyu's life was almost lost here. From the attitude of Huan Chuyu on that day, it seems that Kanglin Academy is now determined to break away from the other two academies. If it were not for Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries that need rest, the team from Kanglin Academy would have already left Qingshao country. After this time, they don't know when they will see Huan Chuyu again. They really don't want their friendship of many years to be affected by the royal family's affairs. Inscriptionist Guild Bailey Hongzhuang was resting in the house. The fracture of her rib is clearly not something that can be healed in a short period of time. She fears she will have to rest for a few more days before leaving the Qingshao Kingdom. Bailey girl, how are your injuries? Just when Bailey Hongzhuang was bored, Di Beichen opened the door and a familiar voice rang outside the room. Turning her gaze slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Bai Jingtian, Ji Yunma and Qin Qingwu walk in. We just heard about your injuries, so we came to see you. How is your health? Ji Yunma asked with concern. Although they didn't know each other for a long time, they were real, lifelong friends. Last time, Bailey Hongzhuang told them many ways to configure inscription liquid, which made their eyes shine. The inscription technique, which had not made progress for many years, had already made progress after Bailey Hongzhuang's hints. Therefore, they not only appreciated Bailey Hongzhuang, but also had a fondness for her like elders for their grandchild. They thought that there would be no problems in the finals of the Academy Exchange competition, but didn't expect such a big thing to happen. If Di Beichen hadn't just arrived, Bailey Hongzhuang's life might have been lost in the royal arena. When they first learned the news, the three old guys were all very angry. Nowadays, the royal family is becoming more and more useless, even attacking students from the academy. If they were there at the time, they would definitely stand up and stop it. But after finding out that Bailey Hongzhuang was fine, they focused their attention on Di Beichen. All along, they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was excellent and that ordinary men were not good enough for her. Bai Jingtian was still thinking of introducing her to some young heroes. They didn't expect to not need to worry about this matter at all. To their surprise, the young master of the Tiangang sect was actually Bailey Hongzhuang's husband. They were truly shocked and they exclaimed that they didn't expect it. Seeing Bai Jingtian and his companions, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a joyful smile. Although they have only known each other for a short time, Bai Jingtian and the other two people gave her the same feeling as those old guys from her previous life, as if they were her grandfathers. No problem, it will be back to normal in a few days. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. The royal family went too far this time. I almost died of anger when I heard the news. Bai Jingtian couldn't hide his anger. Bailey Hongzhuang is a rare good seedling, the royal family actually wanted to kill her. People with different interests cannot work together. As soon as the royal family of Qingshao Kingdom was mentioned, a hint of coldness appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Don't talk about them, save yourself the pain. Yes, yes, yes. Ji Yunma nodded, the matter is over, let's not bring it up again. Bailey girl, after taking your advice last time, I went back and experimented, and it was indeed successful. Qin Qingwu's face was beaming with joy. The method of configuring the inscription liquid that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned had a significant difference from theirs. After some experiments, they found that the method mentioned by Bailey Hongzhuang was more appropriate, and it gave them a lot of help. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Bailey girl, don't you plan to join the Inscription Masters Guild? Bai Jingtian asked, we three old guys are not young anymore. If you can join, we will nominate you for guild leader in Qingshao Kingdom, and let you manage it in the future. Gift, inscription pen. Hearing Bai Jingtian's words, Di Beichen at the side also had a look of surprise in his eyes. Previously, he had already heard from Xia Jiqing about Bailey Hongzhuang's talent as an inscription master. However, from the attitude of Bai Jingtian and the two others, it can be seen that they admire Bailey Hongzhuang to an extraordinary degree. Compared to the Alchemist Guild, the Inscriber Guild has fewer members, but their benefits are even greater than the Alchemist Guilds. After all, rare things are precious, and the number of inscribers is really too small. Although Bailey Hongzhuang is quite accomplished in the inscription art, with her current age and qualifications, she is unable to become the president of the inscription division. This status means that Bailey Hongzhuang could draw a lot of resources from the Inscription Masters Guild, which would be of great benefit to Bailey Hongzhuang. This is what many inscription masters want. Bai Jingtian so easily gave up the identity of the president of the Inscription Masters Guild to Bailey Hongzhuang? It seems that the Bai Jingtian and the two others not only appreciate Bailey Hongzhuang, but they also have a kind of paternal love for Bailey Hongzhuang. I am willing to join the Inscription Masters Guild, but given the current situation with the Qingshao Kingdom's royal family, I won't be staying here. Bailey Hongzhuang showed a trace of helplessness in her eyes. The biggest gain from this trip to Qingshao Kingdom was getting to know the Bai Jingtian and the other two seniors. If possible, she also hopes to have the opportunity to communicate further with Bai Jingtian and the other two in the future, but she has a strong disgust for Qingshao Kingdom and she will definitely not stay here. Hearing this, Bai Jingtian also sighed. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was right. It can be said that Bailey Hongzhuang has completely fallen out with Qingshao Kingdom's royal family. If she still stays in Qingshao Kingdom, the royal family would likely regard her as a thorn in their side, leading to a lot of trouble in the future. The royal family's actions are becoming more and more unbearable. Bailey girl, if you have a chance in the future, come and see us three old men. Bai Jingtian spoke out. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded repeatedly, I definitely will. In my opinion, you don't need to participate in the assessment of Inscription Master. I'll draft your Inscription Master identity tomorrow and bring you your Calligraphy Master robe. It will be much more convenient to buy the materials needed for inscription at the Inscription Masters Guild in the future. If you go to other Inscription Masters Guilds for assessment, it will inevitably be troublesome. Seeing Bai Jingtian thinking of her so much, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little flattered. Thank you, Elder Bai. Bai Jingtian smiled and waved his hand. Why are we talking about this between us? Ji Yunma and Qin Qingwu placed a slender brocade box in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, indicating that Bailey Hongzhuang should open it. Bailey girl, you came to Qingshao Kingdom and helped us three old guys a lot. We old guys don't have much to give you, so this inscription pen is a gift. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated for a moment. then immediately waved her hands and said, "This won't do, I can't accept it. Bailey girl, we three are all your elders, what's wrong with giving you a small gift? Quickly take it." Bailey Hongzhuang opened the brocade box and saw a black and shiny inscription pen in the box. With a slight movement of her mental energy, Bailey Hongzhuang could feel how good the performance of this inscription pen was. With such an inscription pen in hand, the success rate of her drawing inscriptions would also increase significantly. It's just that this inscription pen is too precious. Ask Bailey Hongzhuang. The inscription pen is very important to the inscription master, just like the alchemy furnace is important to the alchemist. A good inscription pen is very rare, and the inscription pen given to her by the three of them is undoubtedly very precious, and is a rare and excellent product. For the inscription master, an inscription pen is very important, please keep it well. Ji Yunma said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth. Everyone knew how valuable this inscription pen was. She really couldn't just accept it like this. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to say something, Qin Qingwu waved his hand to stop Bailey Hongzhuang's words. "Bailey girl, don't say that you refuse. The three of us regard you as our granddaughter, and it is normal for grandfathers to give something to their granddaughter. If you refuse, it means that you don't want to treat us as grandfathers." Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was deeply moved. By Jing Tian and the others were really too good to her. "Thank you very much." Bailey Hongzhuang's face bloomed with a smile. If she still refused at this time, it would hurt the hearts of the three seniors. After seeing this scene, Di Beichen, who was standing nearby, also had a hint of smile in his eyes. While Bailey Hongzhuang and others were conversing, Chu Jiu and the others also came to the inn. As Chu Jiu and the two others explained their intention, the expression on Huan Chuyo's face also changed somewhat. Since experiencing the events in the finals, he has come to understand many things. All the fame is meaningless, and he has also made a firm decision that he will never come to Qingshao country again. "You mean that Nangong Aochen is seriously ill because Bailey Hongzhuang was poisoned? Do you mean to say that Nangong Aochen's serious illness is due to Bailey Hongzhuang poisoning him?" Huan Chuyu was somewhat skeptical. If Bailey Hongzhuang really did poison him, Nangong Aochen should have already reported this, but he has not received any news of it yet. Perhaps this is another case of the royal family framing someone. Chu Jiue nodded slightly. However, this was said by Nangong Aochen when he was awake, so it shouldn't be wrong. "I don't know." Huan Chu Jiue shook his head with a slight look of detachment on his face. He has no connection with the royal family anymore, and just hearing the word royal makes him uncomfortable. "Elder Huan, why don't you ask Bailey Hongzhuang?" Chu Jiu wondered. Bailey Hongzhuang is still recovering from her injuries. If you are here just to inquire about her condition or to catch up, I welcome you. But if you are here to act as an ambassador for the royal family, then you can leave now. Huan Chu's face was slightly cold. As the vice principal, the thing he could not accept the most was someone threatening the lives of the students. The actions of the royal family of Qingshao have already touched his bottom line, and whether Nangong Aochen is dead or alive has nothing to do with him. Looking at Huan Chuyo's resolute attitude, the three of them were very helpless. This was not unexpected. "Elder Huan, our friendship with you has been for so many years," Chen Yu said slowly. "We are definitely on your side in this matter, but we have been in Qingshao Kingdom for so many years, and the Emperor asked us to come. We are helpless. We just want to ask Bailey Hongzhuang a few questions. If she disagrees, we will not force it. What do you think?" Upon hearing this, Huan Chuyu looked Chu Jiu and the others, and there was still a bit of unhappiness in his eyes. "Extraordinary, Bailey Hongzhuang. I'll let you meet Bailey Hongzhuang. As for the rest, I'll leave it up to Bailey Hongzhuang to decide," Huan Chuyu said slowly. He has known Chu Jiu and the other two people for many years, and he also has a certain understanding of their personalities. He believes that they came only out of helplessness. After all, this matter is a problem between Kanglin Academy and Qingshao Kingdom's royal family, and he is unwilling to hurt their relationship of many years because of it. After saying farewell to Qingshao Kingdom this time, he doesn't know when he and these old friends will be able to meet again. Hearing Huan Chuyo's words, Chu Jio and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Elder Huan was still reasonable and things weren't as bad as they thought. Okay. Chu Jio nodded. No matter what decision Bailey Hongzhuang makes, we will respect it. Huan Chuyo's complexion looked a little better. As the vice principal of the academy, he felt that he owed Bailey Hongzhuang a lot because of the exchange competition. He was unwilling to let Bailey Hongzhuang suffer any more harm. This time Bailey Hongzhuang was completely in charge. He didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to make any decisions she didn't want because of his friendship with Chu Jio and the others. Huan Chuyu led Chu Jio and the others into Bailey Hongzhuang's house, and when Bai Jingtian and the others saw that Chu Jio and the others had also come, a look of surprise appeared in their eyes. I didn't expect you to come to see the Hongzhuang girl, Ji Yunma said with a smile. It was only a short time since Bailey Hongzhuang came to Qingshao Kingdom, but she has conquered many people with her strength. Chu Jio and the other two were equally surprised, but after hearing Ji Yunma's question, their expressions changed slightly. Bailey girl, how is your injury now? Chu Jio took out a white porcelain bottle and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. This elixir is very helpful for healing. Thank you, Master Chu. My injury is no longer a hindrance, Bailey Hongzhuang said hastily. She was equally surprised by the appearance of Chu Jio and the other two. The reason why Bai Jingtian and the other two came was because of their very good relationship between her and Bai Jingtian. As for Chu Jio and the other two, although they had some interaction during the alchemy competition, they were not very familiar. It seems that their main purpose for coming here was to visit the vice principal. After all, the vice principal has known them for many years and is good friends with them. They will leave Qingshao Kingdom in a few days, and it will not be so easy to meet each other in the future. After Xia Jiqing and the others saw so many masters visiting Bailey Hongzhuang, envy and emotion appeared in their eyes. Hongzhuang is really amazing to have so many masters come to see her. If other people saw it, they would probably be surprised beyond belief. Xia Jiqing's face was full of smiles. Hongzhuang was truly her idol, and everything about her was so extraordinary. A hint of envy appeared in Lu Qinyue's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang was now a hero of Kanglin Academy, and almost everyone was extremely fond of her. Even masters who are rarely seen normally are eager to visit Bailey Hongzhuang. Such an honor is really not something ordinary people can have. Hongzhuang is not an ordinary person. The students of Lingyin Academy were stunned when several masters rushed to accept Hongzhuang as their apprentice. Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. As a woman herself, she didn't feel the slightest bit of jealousy towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps, it is precisely because she knows that she will never be able to compare with Hongzhuang, so she has no jealousy. Angry, Bai Jingtian after some small talk, Chu Jio and the other two hesitated to speak. They did not expect Bai Jingtian and his two companions to be here. They understand the personalities of Bai Jingtian and others very well, and if they were to explain their intentions, it would probably provoke some contempt. Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed that Chu Jio and his companions were hesitant to speak. It seems that they did not come just to visit but have something to say. Elder Huan, is there something you need? Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly, her pitch-black phoenix eyes shone with the wise light of contemplation. She already had some guesses in her mind, but she wasn't sure if her assumptions were correct. Now Nangong Aochen's situation has become increasingly serious. She is confident in the poison she has administered and that absolutely no one else can solve it except for her. She believes that Nangong Oe must be impatient by now. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Jio and the other two exchanged a glance. Since they came for a purpose in mind, there was no point in hesitating any longer. Bailey girl, we heard that you gave a pill to His Highness, the Crown Prince, during the final? Chenyu asked slowly. As Chenyu finished speaking, the previously lively and joyous atmosphere in the room changed. All eyes turned to Chenyu, as people didn't understand the meaning behind his words. Chenyu, what do you mean by asking that? Bai Jingtian frowned. He had also heard the news that Nangong Aochen was seriously ill, but he didn't know that it had something to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, whether Bailey Hongzhuang was involved or not, there is no evidence. Could it be that Chinyu came to demand punishment? Elder Bai, I don't mean anything by it. I just want to ask if Bailey Hongzhuang has an antidote. As soon as these words were spoken, Xia Jiqing and others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Previously, they were overjoyed to hear about Nangong Aochen's sudden illness, thinking that it was the natural consequence of his wrongdoings and troubles that he had gotten himself into. They never imagined that it was all orchestrated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her eyebrows slightly. She understood that this news couldn't be hidden forever, and Nangong Aochen would definitely speak out about it. However, she never thought that it would be Chu Jiao and the others who came to ask her for the antidote. Di Baichen's face had already taken on a hint of coldness. He was determined to take the life of Nangong Aochen, but because Bailey Hongzhuang had already poisoned him, he didn't immediately take action. Now that the royal family dared to question Bailey Hongzhuang, this was something he could not forgive. Senior Chen, I'm wondering if your brain has been squeezed by a door? Ji Yunma's eyes flashed with confusion. From beginning to end, this whole thing was started by the royal family. Are you now lobbying for the royal family? If you came for the royal family, I suggest you don't say anything else and just leave. Qin Qingwu's eyes also showed a hint of disgust. They were only concerned with studying inscription art and had no fondness for members of the royal family. They regarded Bailey Girl as a granddaughter, and the royal family's actions undoubtedly made them very unhappy. At this time, Chen Yu and others even came to ask Bailey Girl for an antidote. Isn't that asking for trouble? Looking at the attitudes of Bai Jingtian and others, the faces of Chen Yu and his two companions also looked a bit unpleasant. If possible, they really didn't want to do such things for the royal family. Antidote, I don't have it. Elder Bai, Elder Ji, Elder Qin, this matter is not what you think it is, Chen Yu explained helplessly. We only came to inquire because of the emperor's orders, and we have no other intentions. As Chen Yu's words fell, the slightly tense atmosphere also eased a bit. At least Chen Yu and the other two were not here to make trouble. Bailey Girl, His Highness the Crown Prince has already fallen into chaos. I wonder if you can provide an antidote, asked Chu Jiao. Just in the past few days, Nangong Aochen has suffered quite a bit. If the intention was to take revenge on Nangong Aochen, then the goal has been achieved. Bailey Hongzhuang, you decide this matter for yourself, don't mind others. Huan Chuyu said slowly, as he didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to do something she didn't want to do because of him. If it weren't for the long-standing relationship between him, Chen Yu, and the others, he would have directly refused. What does Nangong Aochen have anything to do with them? Now that Nangong Aochen is seriously ill, he has come to seek their help. Prior to this, the royal family wanted to use the deaths of all of them as a stepping stone for Nangong Aochen. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Huan Chuyu a slightly surprised look. She thought that Huan Chuyu brought the three master alchemists in because Huan Chuyu had the same idea as them, but now it seems that this is not the case. Vaguely, she already understood that Huan Chuyu probably wasn't happy either. Indeed, I was the one who administered the poison, said Bailey Hongzhuang slowly. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly straightforwardly admitted it. The beautiful and refined face was full of calmness and indifference. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang never tried to hide it. Since Nangong Aochen wanted her dead, she naturally couldn't let Nangong Aochen live happily either. However, I don't have an antidote. Since she started making this poison, she had no plans to provide an antidote for anyone. If she didn't truly hope for the other party's death, she wouldn't have chosen to use this poison. From the moment she fed Nangong Aochen this pill, it was already destined that he was doomed. What does this mean? Lin Hao was a little surprised, not knowing whether Bailey Hongzhuang had no antidote or was unwilling to give it out. Since I have decided to poison him and want him dead, what's the point of preparing an antidote? Bailey Hongzhuang's rhetorical question left Chu Jiao and the others in silence. Upon careful consideration, Bailey Hongzhuang's words did make some sense. The function of poison is to kill, and Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously determined to kill Nangong Aochen. So why bother to make an antidote? Now that you are safe and sound, it is better to turn your hostility into friendship and hand over the antidote, and you will have one less enemy. Chu Jiao said earnestly. This scene was something she really didn't want to see. What Elder Chu said is wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly, but there was a wicked smile on her lips. Previously, it wasn't that the royal family didn't want to kill us, it was just that they didn't have the ability, so we've survived until now. This has nothing to do with the royal family. If it weren't for the appearance of Bewitching, we would have already disappeared from this world. As for whether I kill Nangong Aochen or not, this is also my decision. If the royal family has the ability, Nangong Aochen will naturally not die, but if they don't have the ability, what does that have to do with me? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent, her eyes were absolutely determined. She had no mercy towards a guy like Nangong Aochen. Bailey girl, well said. Even if she handed over the antidote, the royal family would not be grateful to her for it. On the contrary, because what she had done had left an indelible stain on the royal family, she and the royal family of Qingshao Kingdom were destined to be at odds. If that's the case, why would she cultivate an enemy and make herself unhappy? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's expressions changed a little, and they felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very reasonable. Even Chu Jiao and the others, who had already planned their speech, were speechless after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, because Bailey Hongzhuang had already seen through all of this. Bewitching's eyes were full of admiration. His wife's intelligence is indeed not something ordinary people can possess. She didn't have the slightest bit of feminine weakness, which has reduced a lot of trouble. Xia Jiqing and the others were also full of admiration. They didn't expect Hongzhuang to be so domineering at this time, making it impossible for people to refute. Clap clap. Bai Jingtian immediately applauded. He was also amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's remarks. Bailey girl, well said. Bailey Hongzhuang's character is quite similar to his own. If you don't like it, you just don't like it, don't care about the rest. As an inscription master, even the imperial power cannot constrain him. If necessary, he could simply switch to another dynasty to reside. With the vastness of the world, surely there must be a place for him to go. Ji Yunma and Qin Qingwu also showed expressions of approval on their faces. If they were girls of the same age, facing such imperial power, they probably wouldn't have the courage to make such a decision. But Bailey Hongzhuang's resoluteness really made their eyes shine. After all, the Xingxian continent is a world where everyone relies on their own abilities. Chu Jiao and the other two looked at each other. They also did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so decisive. At such a moment, it seems that nothing they say will be of any use. Elder Chen, since Bailey Hongzhuang has already made a decision, don't force it. Huan Chuyu said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang's decision did not exceed his expectations, and it was also the most correct decision. Thinking of this, Huan Chuyu's eyes could not help but fall on Lu Qinyue. Lu Qinyue's temperament is really too gentle, lacking the resoluteness that Bailey Hongzhuang had. At least, if this kind of thing were to fall on Lu Qinyue's shoulders, he was afraid Lu Qinyue would not know how to decide. Chu Jiao's group nodded slightly. They had done what they were supposed to do, and the outcome of this incident could only be attributed to the royal family's erroneous decision. In that case, we will take our leave first. Chu Jiao said slowly. Because of this incident, there was a bit of embarrassment between them and Huan Chuyu and the others. It might be much better to come back with a different identity next time. However, just when Chu Jiao and the others were about to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, "Three masters, you'd better not get too close to Nangong Aochen." After the words fell, Bailey Hongzhuang withdrew her gaze, as she has already said everything she needed to say. It's just that when Chu Jiao and the others heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, there was a deep look of horror in their eyes. What does this mean? Don't get too close to Nangong Aochan. Is there something unusual with Nangong Aochan's illness? As soon as they thought of this, the three people's faces changed suddenly. It seems that they had oversimplified the situation. The expressions of Huan Chuyu and the others also changed slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's words had already revealed a lot of information. Regret, Jian Qingqiu compared to the shock on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang looked very indifferent. She has never been merciful to her enemies. At the beginning, Nangong Oui wanted the entire Kanglin Academy team buried with her because she ruined Nangong Aochan's plan to become famous. She has always been good at treating others in the same way as they wanted to treat her. Since Nangong Oui decided to do this, she would naturally not be polite. However, in the end she was on the victor's side. Looking at the indifferent Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen also had admiration and appreciation in his eyes. His wife has always been impeccable in everything she does. Even he can't help being frightened by this kind of poison. While Xia Jiqing and the others arrived happily, they could not help but feel sorry for Nangong Aochan and others. It is not good to offend anyone, but they just had to offend Hongzhuang. The consequences of this can only be said to be their own fault. Bai Jingtian and the others were very calm about this. They have lived long lives. What kind of things have they never seen? This kind of outcome is very normal for those full of hatred and malice. There is no cruelty or kindness, one's determination has already determined everything. After Chu Jiao and the other two left the inn, the horror in their hearts still did not disappear. Because, this is really amazing. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age and skill, to achieve this level is already sufficient to prove that Bailey Hongzhuang is extraordinary. This time, the royal family's decision was truly a big mistake. In the current situation, there is nothing we can do. Lin Hao said slowly. They had tried their best. Chu Jiao nodded slightly and said, let's just tell the emperor this news. As for the rest, it's beyond our control. They only went to inquire out of respect for the care the royal family has shown them over the years. By doing this, they have already done all that they can. After all, even the royal family can't force them. The royal family really made a wrong decision this time, and the relationship between the three major academies has also been affected. Chu Jiao sighed quietly and said, perhaps this was all destined to happen. If the academy exchange hadn't been suddenly rescheduled, none of this would have occurred. The outcome of the academy exchange meeting was unresolved, and both Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi felt very conflicted about it. This result was unexpected by all of them. The original purpose of hosting the Academy Exchange Conference was just to suppress Kanglin Academy. Now that Kanglin Academy has withdrawn directly, they don't know what to do. After seeing the strong attitude of the royal family, Jian Qingqiu had a vague sense of foreboding. Now everyone thinks that Lingyin Academy is the academy of the royal family. In the future, the weight of the royal family in Lingyin Academy will become more and more important, and he, the principal, will also be constrained by the royal family. Sang Hongxi's attitude has also changed somewhat. It is undoubtedly good that Lingyin Academy has the strength it has today. However, if it loses its autonomy as an academy, it is not a good thing. He had always felt that Jian Qingqiu's actions were beneficial and harmless and could increase the influence of the academy and become more famous. But now it seems that the situation does not seem to be as optimistic as they thought. He needed to think about it carefully. Jian Qingqiu can no longer escape, but he still has a chance to escape. Jian Qingqiu also noticed Sang Hongxi's thoughts and his face became extremely ugly. But in the current situation, he couldn't say anything more. Powerful, Bailey Hongzhuang. After Nangong Oui learned about the result from Chu Jiao and other two, his expression became a bit ugly. Although he anticipated this outcome, he still felt that there was a glimmer of hope. After all, the power of the royal family should not be underestimated. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so decisive. As a result, he was left with no options. However, Chu Jiao's final reminder stunned him. Stay away from Nangong Aochan. Could this mean that the poison Nangong Aochan was afflicted with was contagious? When Nangong Oi heard the news, he found it incredible. He had never heard of the existence of this kind of poison, and he didn't believe that a poison master could create such a poison. Otherwise, who would dare to offend the poison master? Once someone was poisoned, the consequence would be the extermination of the entire family. As for their attitude towards Nangong Oi, Chu Jio and the other two did not say anything more. They had said what they needed to say, and it was Nangong Oi's choice whether to believe it or not. In fact, Chu Jio and the others were also skeptical about this matter. A poison with this effect was really unheard of, but Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was very serious, without a hint of deception. If this matter was said by someone else, they definitely would not believe it, but when these words were said by Bailey Hongzhuang, it quietly gained a little more credibility. Not for any other reason than it was Bailey Hongzhuang. So far, they had seen too many unbelievable things from Bailey Hongzhuang. Her abilities exceeded their imagination. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to deceive them. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was resolute, she wanted Nangong Aochan to die. If it was only for this reason, Bailey Hongzhuang could have used a poison that killed instantly instead of making Nangong Aochan struggle for so long. There are two possibilities for doing this. One is that Bailey Hongzhuang wants Nangong Aochan to be tortured to death, and the other is the possibility that Bailey Hongzhuang said. Once Nangong Aochan was poisoned, other people would continue to come into contact with him. As a result, the possibility of other people being infected would also greatly increase. Regardless of the reason, they all shuddered. Obviously, offending an enemy like Bailey Hongzhuang was a very unwise move. Bai Jingtian and the others did not stay at the inn for long, and after telling Bailey Hongzhuang to rest well, they left. Once they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries were not serious, they felt relieved. Xia Jiqing and the others also left, leaving only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen in the room. Di Beichen tucked in the covers for Bailey Hongzhuang, his fair and handsome face showing concern. With so many people coming to see you, are you tired? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and shook her head, my injuries have already improved a lot. Don't treat me like an especially fragile patient. These things don't affect me much. As your husband, I just can't help worrying about you. Di Beichen smiled. His wife is truly strong. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a sweetness in her heart. It was rare for her to have such time to spend with Di Beichen, and it made her feel very happy. Have all the matters been resolved during your return to the sect? Did you also obtain the 9th grade purple Lingji? The jet-black phoenix-like eyes sparkled with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang was very concerned about the situation of Di Beichen's cursed body. Nervous, Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, that's right, I obtained the 9th grade purple Lingji. Seeing Di Beichen's indifferent and simple expression, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. She had thought that it would not be an easy task to resolve the sect's affairs and obtain the 9th grade purple Lingji, but Di Beichen was able to handle it so well. From the indifferent look on Di Beichen's face, it seemed as though he was only dealing with something very simple. However, she knew that this matter was definitely not so easily resolved. Otherwise, there would have been no need for Di Beichen to go there in person. She had a vague feeling that as long as Di Beichen took action, all problems would easily solved. As long as he is there, everything can be solved. Returning this time must have been very tiring. With her delicate and exquisite face showing concern and distress, she knew that everyone was impressed by Di Beichen's status, but they didn't know that it was also a kind of pressure. It was precisely because of his unusual identity that he had much more the bear than others. Nowadays Di Beichen was often by her side, so it might be that he was under immense pressure. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's distress, Di Beichen's heart softened, and his right hand slowly grasped Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless little hand. His handsome eyes were full of tenderness. I'm not tired, as long as I see you, I won't be tired. Hearing Di Beichen's sweet words, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the seriousness deep in Di Beichen's starry eyes, and the smile on his lips were also filled with happiness. But, Wife, what is the relationship between you and Mo Yinjue? Deep as the sea, his handsome eyes quietly showed a hint of tension. He didn't want to ask, but Mo Yinjue's attitude that day really made him feel threatened. Bailey Hongzhuang silently sized up Di Beichen, a hint of amusement rising in her heart. Over the past few days, Di Beichen had not asked her about Mo Yinjue. It seems that he couldn't bear it anymore. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's scrutinizing gaze, Di Beichen became even more nervous, afraid that the question he asked would make Bailey Hongzhuang feel that he didn't trust her. Although he had already sent He Mu to check information about Mo Yinjue, what he was more interested in knowing was his wife's attitude. Di Beichen felt nervous, which was completely non-existent in the past. Only when facing Bailey Hongzhuang did he have such emotions, because Bailey Hongzhuang's intentions were too important to him. Because he cares too much, he would feel nervous. If he had experienced this emotion before, he would have found it laughable. However, now he is deeply immersed in this emotion and unable to extricate himself from it. Seeing Di Beichen's nervous appearance, a smile slowly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Mo Yinjue and I are just friends, nothing more. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke calmly. She had indeed always only regarded Mo Yinjue as a friend, without any romantic feelings. She was very clear that from the moment Di Beichen entered her heart, he was the one she would spend her life with. And she recognized Di Beichen's kindness towards her. She has never been a greedy person, nor someone who changes her mind frequently. As long as there is someone like Di Beichen who treats her sincerely, that is already enough. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Di Beichen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Especially with Bailey Hongzhuang's calm appearance, he understood that from start to finish, she had no other thoughts. Wife, are you angry? In the past, when I was in the Luoyun mountain range, I once had a chance encounter with Mo Yinjue. Later, when I came to the Qingshao kingdom, I happened to meet Mo Yinjue again. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled modestly and looked at Di Beichen. Despite Di Beichen's excellence, he was still worried about a romantic rival. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's playful gaze, Di Beichen's eyes also changed a bit. If it wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang, he wouldn't care if it was another person. All his emotions naturally changed after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, and every frown and smile from Bailey Hongzhuang moved his heart. All along, he had always been aware of his own excellence, but in the presence of Bailey Hongzhuang, he did not have such arrogance. Because, in Di Beichen's life, Bailey Hongzhuang is the person destined for him by fate. That's why all his emotions were tied to Bailey Hongzhuang. At that moment, when Di Beichen heard Bai Li Hongzhuang speak so calmly and frankly, all the worries in his heart also disappeared. I just find Mo Yinjue's origins a bit strange. Facing the teasing eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen pretended to be indifferent. As a mighty man, he was actually nervous about such a thing, which was indeed a bit damaging to his masculine image. However, in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, all of Di Beichen's actions appeared even more adorable. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be serious and nodded, indeed, it's a bit strange. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's smile, Di Beichen narrowed his eyes. His wife's courage had grown. She dared to joke with him now. The next moment, Di Beichen's face slowly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang stared blankly at Di Beichen's handsome face approaching her little by little, she could even feel his warm breath at such a close distance. The smile in her eyes gradually disappeared, and a touch of blush quietly spread on her pretty face. It wasn't until Di Beichen's nose touched hers that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but make a sound. What are you going to do? Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's nervous appearance and chuckled softly. His face turned slightly and lingered by Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. Wife, you are still so shy. As soon as these words were spoken, Bailey Hongzhuang froze for a moment and looked at Di Beichen in embarrassment. Di Beichen. This guy is really wicked. Di Beichen chuckled, his wife's shy nature has not changed at all. I just like seeing my wife's shyness. Di Beichen blinked, his already extraordinarily handsome face was now exuding a hint of charm and recklessness, filled with indescribable appeal. Bailey Hongzhuang bit her lip. She was indeed no match for Bewitching in this respect, but she still had other ways. I'm going to rest, so you should leave, said Bailey Hongzhuang, lifting her chin. Upon seeing this, Bewitching's eyes narrowed. Wife, are you angry? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin, her expression unchanged. I'm just tired. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Even when his wife was pretending to be angry, she was still so adorable. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was joking, because he had already seen the uncontrolled smile in her eyes. In the next instant, Bewitching moved a little closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, why don't we rest together? Your husband is a little tired too. Bewitching. Hurry up and get out. Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. This guy's shamelessness was as strong as a city wall. The fate of offending the master after Bewitching left, Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Bai Shi all gathered in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Their round, watery eyes all sparkled with slight smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed slightly. She made a mistake, a mistake. Next time Bewitching came, she should put these three little guys into the ring of chaos first. Her image as a brilliant master of martial arts was all destroyed by Bewitching. Three beasts blinked their small eyes and had thick smiles on their faces. The atmosphere was indeed different when Bewitching was present. Stop looking at me like that, or you won't have dinner tonight. Seeing that the three beasts continued to stare without showing any signs of restraint, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but resort to her ultimate weapon. Fortunately, these three beasts still had a weakness. Sure enough, after Bailey Hongzhuang said this, the expressions of the three beasts also changed, and they immediately restrained their gazes, not daring to continue staring. For a foodie, this is the most unacceptable thing for them. Xiao He and Xiao Bai walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang, and their watery eyes twinkled with curiosity. Master, what kind of effect did the poison you gave to Nangong Aochen have? Based on the words previously spoken by the master, they only knew that the poison was very powerful, so they were even more curious about what kind of poison it was. This is a highly contagious poison with terrifying effects. Nangong Aochen has been sick for at least a month, and people who have been in frequent contact with him during this period are likely infected. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm as she spoke, recalling how the old guys in her family were surprised when she formulated this poison. Normally, she had kept this poison hidden away for future use. She would never use it regularly. But this time, the actions of Qingshao Kingdom's royal family really offended her. At that time in the competition arena, she was very clear in her heart that although she fought desperately, the possibility of success was still very small. It was precisely because of this that at that time she wanted the entire royal family of Qingshao Kingdom to be buried with her. If she just wanted to kill Nangong Aochen, there were many kinds of poisons that could violently kill him. If she wanted to torture Nangong Aochen, there are also many methods available. However, she chose this method to make the entire royal family pay a huge price. Even though time has passed, the situation from before still remains vivid in her memory, and she has no intention of changing it. Upon hearing this, the three animals looked at each other and realized that their owner's methods were really extraordinary. Once you offend Master, your end is truly miserable. The royal family of Qingshao Kingdom really asked for trouble, but this is also their own fault. Bailey Hongzhuang recovered from her injuries very quickly. With her own medical treatment and Bewitching persistently feeding her medicinal pills, her recovery speed was very satisfactory. My injuries no longer affect me, let's leave tomorrow, said Bailey Hongzhuang slowly. Due to her injuries, they had delayed their departure from Qingshao Kingdom for a number of days. Now that Nangong Aochen's situation was growing more and more serious, they could also feel the royal family's gaze on them increasing. Although this has no effect everyone, it still feels very uncomfortable. Upon hearing this, Bewitching frowned slightly, with some concern in his eyes. Don't try to be strong, first recover from your injuries before we leave. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly and said, I understand my body. It will be fine, and besides, I don't want to stay here anymore. Anxious, Nangong Oi seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's determination, Di Baichen thought for a moment. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was more worried about everyone. He had been together with Bailey Hongzhuang for so long that he also has a certain understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang's character. Making everyone bear it because of herself was obviously not what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted. "Are your injuries really okay?" The deep, dark eyes shimmered with a worried light. "The road is bumpy. If you are affected by it, I will feel heartbroken." With Di Baichen's question, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart softened, and a sweet feeling spread through her heart. She understood how much Di Baichen cared about her. "Don't worry, I'm sure nothing will happen," Bailey Hongzhuang said confidently. Although the journey was a bit bumpy, it wouldn't have too much of an impact. Her injuries had already recovered a lot, so leaving the Qingshao kingdom was not a problem. "Then, I'll go and tell everyone," said Di Baichen stroking Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful hair. His handsome features revealed a hint of warmth, and it was precisely because of Bailey Hongzhuang's personality that he couldn't help but feel distressed. After Di Baichen told everyone about this decision, they all walked into Bailey Hongzhuang's room. "Hongzhuang, your injuries have not healed yet. Let's wait until your injuries are completely recovered before leaving." Xia Jiqing's face showed a worried expression. Although the recent attention from the royal family has made them somewhat helpless, with Di Baichen here, they did not have to worry about the royal family making any inappropriate moves. If it affects Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries, this is something they don't want to happen. "Jiqing is right, you don't have to worry about us, it doesn't matter where we cultivate," Cui Haoyan said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang had already done a lot for them, they couldn't let her be affected by them again. Although Gong Shaoqing and the others did not speak, their eyes showed the same concern. Looking at the concerned expressions on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang felt warm in her heart and smiled, saying, "My injuries are no longer serious, so you don't have to worry about me." In the end, everyone agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's decision. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang has become the leader of their team. No matter what choices she makes, they will support her. Di Baichen and the others started to prepare, and they will leave tomorrow. They also had to prepare their horses. Seeing the movements of Di Baichen and the others, the members of the royal family were also very upset. Once Bailey Hongzhuang left, Nangong Aochen would be completely helpless. Nangong Oi's face was extremely gloomy. Nangong Aochen was his most beloved son and he wanted to forcibly detain Bailey Hongzhuang countless times. However, when he thought of Di Baichen's identity, he felt helplessness. With the status as young master of the Tiangang sect, he really couldn't afford to offend. Otherwise, once Di Baichen got angry, the whole royal family might be implicated. He can't afford this cost. It's just that as he watched the increasingly emaciated figure of Nangong Aochen, his mood plummeted. Who would have thought that as the emperor of a kingdom, he would be so helpless? Once Bailey Hongzhuang leaves, he will have no recourse. Thinking of this, Nangong Oi was about to collapse. He kept thinking of ways, if he couldn't seize this opportunity, then it would really be over. Between rivals in love, confrontation. Just as Di Baichen sent people to prepare to leave, Mo Yinjue also arrived at the inn. Upon seeing Mo Yinjue again, Di Baichen's expression was more indifferent compared to before. He is not a man lacking in self-confidence. On the contrary, he has absolute confidence in his own abilities. Earlier, it was just Mo Yinjue's sudden appearance that caught him off guard, which disoriented him a little. Bailey Hongzhuang had undoubtedly reassured him, so he had become more open and frank. Upon seeing Mo Yinjue, Xia Jiqing and the others smiled. Since coming to Qingshao Kingdom, Mo Yinjue has helped them a lot, especially when he went against the royal family for them, but to be precise, for Bailey Hongzhuang. It is precisely because Mo Yinjue has feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang that everyone's expressions were somewhat strange. After all, they were all very clear about the relationship between Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. When love rivals meet, extremely jealously appears. Regardless of whether it is Di Baichen or Mo Yinjue, they all think they are both good people. This situation can only be resolved on their own. Are you leaving tomorrow? Mo Yinjue, dressed in black, was restrained yet handsome, with a hint of casualness in his indifferent expression. He asked Di Beichen without a hint of embarrassment. Di Beichen's attitude was equally indifferent. Yes, we have stayed in Qingshao Kingdom for a while, and it's time to leave. Has Hongzhuang's injuries recovered? Mo Yinjue asked. According to what he saw that day, it would take a while for Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries to recover. No, fully, but she has more than halfway recovered. Xia Jiqing and others looked at each other in concern. They were worried that Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue might start fighting over a trivial matter. After all, everyone knows the identities of these two rivals in love. However, the current situation is clearly very different from what they had imagined. Both men were behaving very casually, as if they were just ordinary friends, which made them feel strange. I'm going to see Hongzhuang, Mo Yinjue said. Hearing this, Di Beichen's expression remained unchanged. He opened the door and walked into the room with Mo Yinjue. He has never been a stingy person. Mo Yinjue's help to Hongzhuang during this period is truly real, and he doesn't want Hongzhuang to feel that he is so petty. After Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue entered the room together, Xia Jiqing and the others exploded. Oh my goodness, I didn't expect that the attitudes towards each other would be so peaceful when they met. I was worried that they would get into a fight if they disagreed. Xia Jiqing patted her chest, her eyes full of worry. Zhang Yunfeng nodded deeply in agreement. I already knew something was wrong when Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue stood in front of Hongzhuang together that day. It was this calmness that surprised me the most. Cui Haoyan and Gong Shaoqing exchanged a glance. As men, they understood the real underlying situation. The calm between Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue was just a pretense. From the moment these two people met, a confrontational atmosphere had already taken hold. It's just that both of them can control their emotions, and never show it. I don't think so. They have been comparing each other. Men care a lot about this kind of thing, said Bai Junyu slowly. As Bai Junyu's voice fell, Gong Shaoqing and Cui Haoyan also nodded. Bai Junyu was absolutely right. Are you worried about me? When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Mo Yanju, her exquisite and unparalleled beauty blossomed with a gentle and charming smile. She knew everything that Mo Yinjue had done and was very grateful to him. No matter what, Mo Yinjue's ability to do this for her was already a great act of kindness. If Mo Yinjue needed her help in the future, she would definitely not refuse. You've come, said Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. Mo Yinjue nodded slightly, his gaze falling on Bailey Hongzhuang's no longer pale face. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang had recovered quite well. Di Beichen sat down quietly on the side without speaking. This was the time for Bailey Hongzhuang to communicate with Mo Yinjue. Seeing that you're doing well puts my mind at ease. Mo Yinjue's eyebrows lifted slightly as a faint smile appeared on his face, but his deep, black hole-like eyes shimmered with a complex and profound light. I heard that you will be leaving Qingshao Kingdom tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head gently. We have stayed in Qingshao Kingdom for quite some time now, it's time to leave. It's better to leave earlier. Nangong Aochen's illness is getting worse and he probably won't be able to hold on for much longer. If you continue to stay here, there is the potential for danger. If you leave, you will have a brighter future. Mo Yinjue said slowly. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were deep and mysterious, and her beautiful and fair face showed a hint of worry. Aren't you going to leave Qingshao Kingdom? She didn't know what Mo Yinjue's identity was, but she could guess Mo Yinjue's identity would not be simple. Otherwise, Mo Yinjue wouldn't be able to stay safely in Qingshao Kingdom after what happened back then. Perhaps that was why she didn't feel much guilt towards Mo Yinjue. Are you worried about me? Mo Yinjue raised an eyebrow slightly and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. After hearing what Mo Yinjue said, Di Beichen behind him unconsciously clenched the right hand holding his teacup. This guy really doesn't know how to behave. Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised, but still nodded and said, we are friends, so naturally I would care about you. Mo Yinjue had helped her so much, and she regards him as a respected friend. Now that Mo Yinjue is in danger, she would naturally be worried about him. Di Beichen quietly relaxed his hand holding the teacup, and the corners of his lips curled up in a happy arc. He just likes his Hongzhuang so much. The color of Mo Yinjue's eyes gradually changed, but his smile still showed a trace of lightheartedness. Don't worry, I will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang deeply scrutinized Mo Yinjue with a glance. She could sense the confidence he had when he spoke those words. Thinking about it, what Mo Yinjue said was true. She really didn't need to worry. That's good. Thank you for your help. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. The dark-as-ink phoenix eyes shone with sincerity and clear gratitude as she thanked him for his generous assistance. Without Mo Yinjue's help, the situation would have been even worse. Mo Yinjue stared at those pair of black, bright and clear eyes. His deep, boundless eyes flashed with a hint of emotional change. His beautiful, thin lips lifted slowly, exuding a hint of sexy wickedness. Mo Yinjue smiled lightly and said, "Okay." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently. Perhaps this friendship came about in a strange way, but it was real. I wish you a smooth journey, see you in the future. Mo Yinjue stood up slowly. His handsome and stern face exuded a sense of ease and indifference, but his final sentence was affirmative. Reborn Bailey Hongzhuang got up to see her off, but Mo Yinjue declined politely. Bailey Hongzhuang's current injury should be well cultivated and she should move as little as possible. However, when Mo Yinjue turned to leave and passed by Di Beichen noticed Mo Yinjue's expression, and immediately walked out with Mo Yinjue. Xia Jiqing and the others outside the room had expressions of surprise when they saw Mo Yinjue and Di Beichen come out together and walk downstairs without saying a word. Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue were completely incomprehensible to them. In theory, these two people should be like fire and water when they meet, but looking at the situation, it was completely different. After Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, she saw everyone gathered and her clear eyes filled with surprise. What are you all doing here? Xia Jiqing moved to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Hongzhuang, what did you say to Mo Yinjue? Nothing much, I just thanked him for helping us. Bailey Hongzhuang replied calmly. Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, but she couldn't detect any trace of dishonesty or concealment from Bailey Hongzhuang's frank gaze and attitude. It seems that they were overthinking things. I don't think the relationship between Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue is friendly. Now that the two of them have gone out together, could they be looking for a place to have a good fight? Zhang Yunfeng asked suspiciously. As Zhang Yunfeng finished speaking, Cui Haoyan, Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fangyu, and Bai Junyu all laughed. Women's thinking is different from men's. They can feel the tension between Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue, but both of them are outstanding and it is unlikely for them to do something so irrational at this time. As for a beating, it may be possible in the future, but it is absolutely impossible now. You two don't need to worry about it. That kind of thing won't happen, said Cui Haoyan as he patted Zhang Yunfeng's little head and chuckled in amusement. Zhang Yunfeng and Xia Jiqing looked at each other. They didn't understand what the four men were laughing at. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Dong Fangyu, and she clearly saw a completely different attitude coming from him. It was as if he had been completely reborn. His energy and spirit had improved. Obviously, Dong Fangyu had recovered from the previous setback, becoming more active, more motivated, and mentally resilient. As the mentor said, as long as Dong Fangyu can bounce back from this setback, he will become a brand new Dong Fangyu, which will be of great benefit to his future. Obviously, Dong Fangyu has already felt these benefits. Dong Fangyu, have you fully recovered? Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black, bright, beautiful eyes flickered with a gleam of surprise, as she smiled brightly. Dong Fangyu nodded slightly, his eyes bright like stars. I'm fine now. You all worried about me. As long as you're okay, that's good. Your temperament has also changed, said Bailey Hongzhuang with a light smile. A change in a person's heart can also lead to a certain change in their appearance. As Bailey Hongzhuang said this, Xia Jiqing nodded repeatedly. Yes, I also feel that Dong Fangyu has become even more handsome than before. This time, Dong Fangyu is probably going to attract even more screams from the junior sisters when he goes back. Huh? Zhang Yunfeng chuckled lightly. Although they had experienced various risks during their trip to Qingshao Kingdom, the final outcome was not bad. Failure. Han Xiling, Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue walked out of the inn without saying a word. Neither of them was in a hurry. Di Beichen knew that Mo Yinjue had something to say to him, but he didn't know what it was. The two walked all the way to the first floor. And after Di Beichen followed Mo Yinjue into the private room, he spoke up, "You can just tell me what's going on." Looking at Di Beichen's calm appearance, Mo Yinjue had a faint smile on his lips, but his deep black eyes had quietly become a bit cold. Di Beichen, since you want to be with Hongzhuang, then take good care of her and don't let her fall into danger. Di Beichen raised an eyebrow and said, "Don't worry, such a thing won't happen again." He had already secretly vowed that he would never let such a thing happen again. Thinking that he might have arrived too late this time and Bailey Hongzhuang might have left him forever, he felt an indescribable suffocation. He couldn't afford such a price, so this was the only and last time. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Mo Yinjue sneered, "It seems that Hongzhuang hasn't told you about that matter yet." After Mo Yinjue's statement, Di Beichen couldn't help but furrow his handsome brows. "What do you mean?" Mo Yinjue looked at Di Beichen and said, "I know you are always excellent, but sometimes it's not a good thing. Please explain clearly, what exactly happened?" Di Beichen's expression slightly condensed. He understood that Mo Yinjue was not speaking nonsense and had a purpose behind his words. So, what else happened during his absence? Bailey Hongzhuang had never mentioned this matter to him. What kind of thing could it be? I've said before that Han Xiling's appearance is your downfall. If you can't handle Han Xiling well, I might be able to snatch away Hongzhuang from you. Mo Yinjue spoke slowly. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings for Di Beichen, so he wouldn't interfere. However, if Di Beichen is not good enough to Bailey Hongzhuang, then he would not be polite. As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen had already discovered some clues. The last time he saw Mo Yinjue, he also mentioned Han Xiling to him, but he didn't take it to heart and just thought it was something Mo Yinjue casually mentioned. After all, he and Han Xiling had always been praised by everyone as a match made in heaven. It seems that things were not that simple. Han Xiling has already made a move, and she didn't hesitate to use the people of the Heaven Slayer House One to strike. Moreover, she sent 2 groups of assassins at once. Obviously, she is determined to get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yinjue's deep voice was vigilant. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mention it because she didn't want to embarrass Di Beichen, but he would not let Bailey Hongzhuang suffer such grievances. There was a layer of waves in the handsome eyes as deep as the sea, but Di Beichen's heart was full of shock and turmoil. If Mo Yinjue hadn't told him this news, he might not know when he would find out. He didn't doubt what Mo Yinjue said, because there was no need for Mo Yinjue to deceive him. "Are you sure it's Han Xiling? Are you sure it's Han Xiling?" Di Beichen spoke slowly, thinking of his former junior sister, and a difficult-to-express emotion welled up in his heart. Mo Yinjue chuckled, "Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but if you can't even handle this kind of problem, I think you might as well let go." "I won't let go." Mo Yinjue's eyes were like a black hole, and he couldn't see the slightest clue. As far as he is concerned, in this world only Bailey Hongzhuang is a special existence. Other women are nothing more than skeletons with makeup. Even if he killed them, he wouldn't bat an eye. "I won't let go." Di Beichen abruptly stood up, without even taking a sip of the tea on the table, and walked out. However, as he walked outside of the private room, his low and resolute voice also reached the ears of Mo Yinjue. "I won't give you the slightest chance." With these words, Di Di Baichen strode decisively towards the outside of the room. Yes, he would not give Mo Yinjue a chance. He was negligent before, but he would make up for this mistake. He takes care of his wife, himself. No one could understand what Bailey Hongzhuang meant to him. As far as he is concerned, there is only one Bailey Hongzhuang in the world, and she is the only partner that he, Di Baichen, has chosen for this lifetime. Only her. Mo Yinjue watched as Di Baichen left, the smile on his lips gradually fading away, his eyes pitch black without any glimmer of light. He has always been a lurker, and no one has ever cared about his joys and sorrows. He has no attachment to life or death. Whether he's alive or dead, he feels no joy in living and no pain in dying. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang is the only person who means something to him. He does what he says he will do. If Di Baichen doesn't take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang, he will definitely not let her go. When Di Baichen returned to the inn, almost everyone could feel Di Baichen's depression. Under the influence of such depression, everyone looked at each other in blank dismay, completely unaware of what happened. Sure enough, it's never a good thing when rivals meet. To make Di Baichen show such an expression, this situation is really serious. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Mo Yinjue is a good person, she hopes that Bailey Hongzhuang can be with Di Baichen properly. Zhang Yunfeng also shrugged, I don't know what happened, it's better for us not to talk about it. Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fengyu, Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan all ate without saying a word. This is Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's matter as a couple, so they didn't want to get involved. Bailey Hongzhuang also sensed the changes in Di Baichen's emotions. She didn't know what Mo Yinjue and Di Baichen had talked about. In theory, no matter what happened, it shouldn't have caused Di Baichen to become like this. Unless... Thinking carefully, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly thought of a possibility. It is impossible for Di Baichen to be angry with her, and it makes no sense for Di Baichen to be angry with Mo Yinjue. In this case, there is only one possibility. He is angry with himself. When every other possibility is eliminated, there is only one possibility left. Han Xiling. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much, but continued to eat the rice in the bowl. She didn't want to tell Di Baichen about this, after all, it was a war between her and Han Xiling. Han Xiling has already taken action against her, and she also feels cold towards Han Xiling. If they meet again in the future and there is an opportunity, she will not show mercy. However, Mo Yinjue told Di Baichen about this, changing the situation somewhat. However, this may not be a bad thing either, as she can better understand Di Baichen's attitude sooner. Thinking about it, Mo Yinjue didn't want her to be wronged because of this, so he told Di Baichen about it. She really didn't know how to thank Mo Yinjue for his concern for her. Shy, 3 beasts after the meal, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen went back into the room together. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at the closed door with a hint of worry in their eyes. Could Mo Yinjue have directly declared war on Di Baichen? Otherwise, Di Baichen's mood wouldn't be so bad, sighed Xia Jiqing. Dong Fengyu shook his head slightly. If it was just a declaration of war, with Di Baichen's temperament, he would not be so angry. He had completely let go of his feelings, and only outstanding men like Di Baichen and Mo Yinjue were worthy of Bailey Hongzhuang. He would be the better man. Hearing this, Zhang Yunfeng was stunned. Really? He wouldn't be so angry as to declare war directly. What exactly did Mo Yinjue say to Di Baichen? I don't know, Cui Haoyan shook his head. Wars between men can be very frightening. You guys don't have to worry. There won't be any problem between Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Rest early tonight. We will set off tomorrow. Gong Xiaoqing looked at everyone helplessly, but he also understood that all of this came from everyone's concern for Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yinjue. Everyone looked at each other in silence, and felt that Gong Xiaoqing was right. There was no point in worrying. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang entered the room, she was immediately cornered by Di Baichen, who pressed her against the door. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could finish her sentence, Di Beichen's handsome face rapidly filled her vision, and his lips pressed against hers. The warm touch was soft yet domineering. This kiss was different from Di Beichen's usual gentleness. It was filled with dominance and possessiveness, crushing her lips, turning and twisting as he greedily savored her sweetness. Bailey Hongzhuang froze, but she could feel Di Beichen's crazy suppressed emotions. Her arms slowly wrapped around Di Beichen's neck, her pretty face flushed shyly as she cooperated with Di Beichen. Di Beichen's original violent and nervous emotions slowly calmed down after feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle response, but the desire and hope in his eyes deepened. His wife just made him feel like he couldn't stop, and every time he got a little bit, he always wanted more. Her rose-like red lips were so alluring that they seemed to be dripping with dew. Her crimson face was tinged with shyness and uncertainty, and the fair skin on her neck, faintly tinted with a blush, were irresistible. The next moment, Di Beichen immediately hugged Bailey Hongzhuang around her waist, and came to the bed. As for those three beasts, they were already so embarrassed when they saw this scene that they didn't know what to do. This passionate scene is really not suitable for children. The three beasts entered the ring of chaos immediately, and maintained the same posture, covering their eyes and facing the wall, thinking about it. Di Beichen gently kissed Bailey Hongzhuang's lips, the tenderness in his eyes could almost melt everything. His wife can only be his, and no one else can have designs on her. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were blurred, looking at that handsome face as beautiful as a god's shrine, her eyes were full of tenderness. Di Beichen kissed her passionately, lightly kissing every inch of her lips. He was deeply intoxicated by her faint and charming fragrance. With his big hands moving down, Bailey Hongzhuang was dazed and confused. All of this was strange to her, and with Di Beichen, she couldn't bear to refuse. When Di Beichen's hand touched something soft, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but freeze. Her right hand also grabbed Di Beichen's big hand, and her clear eyes showed a trace of panic. My wife, I'm not stupid. Sensing the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang's body, Di Beichen also noticed the flash of panic and tension in her eyes. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a cute little white rabbit in his arms, so endearing, available for anyone to pick up. Di Beichen regained a trace of rationality. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was not mentally prepared, and his attack did catch her off guard. He took Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms, felt her trembling, and his heart ached. My dear, you are the most important person to me. Di Beichen's voice was low, like a murmured confession. Never leave me. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against Di Beichen's chest and felt the worry in his words. She nodded slightly and said, I won't leave you. She didn't know why Di Beichen had these worries, but she only wanted him to feel at ease. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly, but his movements were exceptionally gentle. He was too impulsive today, and Hongzhuang's injuries were not completely healed yet. Wife, did assassins attack you before? Di Beichen's gaze regained its composure. The reason he lost control of his emotions was because he understood that what Mo Yinjue said was not wrong. If he doesn't handle the issue of Han Xiling well, he might really lose Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had asked him this question back then, and he had always thought that Han Xiling would not do such a thing. But if all of this was true, then he had no choice but to take action. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it for a moment, then nodded slightly, that's right. Di Beichen already knew that, so she had no need to conceal it. In fact, she also didn't know enough about the assassin. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's confession, Di Beichen's eyes darkened, and his expression turned a bit cold. Wife, I didn't expect Xiling to do such a thing. Di Beichen's brows were already furrowed. It seems that the junior sister in his mind was not really a junior sister. He had never paid attention to what Han Xiling was hiding. In the past, he had always practiced with Han Xiling in the sect. At that time, Han Xiling clearly didn't have such scheming intentions. It had been 3 years since he left the Tiangang sect. It seems that during those 3 years, Han Xiling had changed a lot. He shouldn't continue to view Han Xiling with the previous perspective, it's just that he hadn't wanted to believe it. Seeing that Di Baichen did not hesitate to believe that Han Xiling was responsible for this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised. After all, Di Baichen did not have such an attitude before. How can you be sure that it's Han Xiling? Her pitch-black eyes were tinged with a hint of surprise. Although she also believed that Han Xiling was responsible for this matter, she had no evidence yet. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with shame. His wife, in order to not make things difficult for him, didn't even mention such a thing. Speaking of which, his previous attitude must have made Bailey Hongzhuang feel very helpless. My wife, I'm not stupid. With just this simple sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang already understood. She already figured it out. How could Di Baichen not understand? Did you meet with Mo Yunjue back then? Even though Mo Yunjue didn't say anything, Di Baichen immediately figured it out. If it weren't for this, Mo Yunjue wouldn't have known about the appearance of the assassin. And with Han Xiling's personality, once she acts, she is sure to destroy Bailey Hongzhuang. I will handle this matter. Di Baichen could imagine that during that time, Bailey Hongzhuang must have gone through some risks again. After he went back, he felt that something was strange in the sect. Now it seems that the issues in the sect may have been deliberately caused by Han Xiling to distract him and make it easier for her to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Di Baichen felt a chill in his heart. So many things had happened during the time he was away. No matter what happens in the future, he couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang face everything alone again. What Mo Yunjue said was right, he was indeed not a competent husband. However, that was before. He would not let such a thing happen again in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, yes, I encountered the first wave of assassins, and then Mo Yunjue appeared. The second wave of killers left after realizing that they couldn't attack me. After that, I stayed with everyone and never acted alone, so the assassins never had the chance to make a move. Now that you are here, I think those assassins have already left. Her clear and bright beautiful eyes shone with a calm and confident light. Han Xiling had been reckless in trying to kill her, but when Di Baichen appeared, Han Xiling became more cautious. Because, Han Xiling didn't mind showing her cruel side to anyone, except for Di Baichen. Di Baichen was not surprised either. He gently stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's long, black and silky hair. I will handle this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang detected the decisiveness in Di Baichen's words, and she understood that he had already made a decision. In fact, she had been reluctant to mention Han Xiling in front of Di Baichen before, and she also didn't want to cause difficulties for Di Baichen. If it weren't for Han Xiling's help during those years, Di Baichen's situation in the kingdom of Fengbo would probably have been even worse. Therefore, she also felt grateful to Han Xiling. However, when Han Xiling tried to have her assassinated, all that was gone. It was clearly not Bailey Hongzhuang's style to not take revenge. Di Baichen wrapped Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms, her refreshing scent filled his nostrils, and his frown quietly eased. Only when he was with Bailey Hongzhuang could he be so at ease and relaxed. During the days when he was away, he constantly worried about Bailey Hongzhuang, hoping that everything could be resolved as soon as possible so that he could return earlier. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries earlier, he focused all his attention on Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries. Now that her injuries had improved somewhat, he finally relaxed completely. Bailey Hongzhuang is a unique treasure to him, and only when he was by her side could he feel at ease. At this moment, holding Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms felt extremely comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang was also quietly leaning against Di Baichen's chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat. For her, this tranquil moment was also a kind of enjoyment. She understood that when Di Baichen said he would handle it, he would definitely handle it. Perhaps Di Baichen still had some hesitation before, but now that he had made a decision, it would naturally be much easier to deal with. After a long while, Di Baichen finally said, "Wife, I have never heard that you also have talent in the art of inscriptions before. If it weren't for the arrival of Bai Jingtian and the others, he might not have known about this. He never knew that his wife had such an ability. It is really amazing. The two principals bite the bullet. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, I haven't been studying inscription techniques for long. I just happened to meet Bai Lao and had a conversation with him while I was in the Qingshao kingdom. Di Beichen's lips curled into a slight smile, and his slender and glossy fingers brushed over Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and petite nose. How many surprises do you still have in store for me? Although what Bailey Hongzhuang said were simple, Di Beichen understood that just the fact that Bai Jingtian was willing to give up the position of president of the Inscription Masters Guild to Bailey Hongzhuang already proved how outstanding her proficiency in inscription techniques was. As a doctor, alchemist or inscription master, Bailey Hongzhuang's talents amazed him. Disregarding her identity as a cultivator, he had never seen a person as gifted as Bailey Hongzhuang. Her achievements in these three aspects were already surprising. Others said he was excellent, but he felt that Hongzhuang was even better than him. Perhaps, the encounter between him and Hongzhuang was destined to happen from the beginning. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. She was indeed very interested in the art of inscription. Although learning inscription would take a lot of time and effort, she was a little different from other cultivators. While other cultivators were sleeping, she cultivated instead of sleeping. In this way, she saved a lot of time. Back when her family elders told her to cultivate instead of sleep, she found it extremely painful at first. However, after getting used to it, she found that this way of doing things was quite good. Cultivation also makes people feel refreshed and invigorated, and it allowed her to have more time to study alchemy. It was precisely because of this that she was able to achieve such great results in both cultivation and alchemy. While Bailey Hongzhuang was talking to Di Beichen, Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi also came to the inn. When everyone in Kanglin Academy saw Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi, a look of disgust appeared on their faces. They no longer had the respect for these two principals that they did in It Ally. Everything they did disgusted them and they do not want to see them again. Once upon a time, these academy principals were seen as highly respected figures towering above others, but now, all of this had disappeared. Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi naturally knew that the people of Kanglin Academy did not welcome them, but they came out of helplessness. Nangong Oui found out that the Kanglin Academy team would leave Qingshao Kingdom tomorrow, and had asked the two of them to find a way to get the antidote from Bailey Hongzhuang. Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi were extremely helpless about this, but Nangong Oui's attitude was very insistent, and they had to come. When they first learned of this matter, the two of them were also surprised. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so ruthless and experienced in her methods, not at all like an ordinary academy student. How big is the gap between the royal family and Bailey Hongzhuang? However, Bailey Hongzhuang made the entire royal family of the Qingshao kingdom powerless against her. Why did the two principals come here today? Asked Huan Chuyu nonchalantly after seeing Jian Qingqiu and the other person. He no longer had a good impression of them after what had happened earlier, so he was not polite when he saw them again. Feeling the coldness from Huan Chuyu, Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi looked at each other, the helplessness in their eyes intensified, but they could only force their smiles. Elder Huan, can we go inside and talk? There were so many students here, it was really inconvenient for them to talk. Neither salty nor bland, Huan Chuyu also noticed where Jian Qingqiu's gaze was directed. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded and said, "Please come in." With those words, Huan Chuyu did not even glance at Jian Qingqiu and walked into the house by himself, displaying his indifference. As academy principals, Jian Qingqiu and Sang Hongxi had never received such cold treatment before. Previously, they were always high and mighty when facing Huan Chuyu and Ren Tianxiong. Unexpectedly, fortunes reversed, and now that Huan Chuyu had decided to cut ties with the other two major academies, it was their turn to come to him and seek his help. Such a change really made them helpless. Gong Shaoqing and others saw Huan Chuyu's attitude towards Jian Qingqiu, and they were relieved. Their hearts were not so forgiving, and they could not ignore the secret means used by the two principals. The treatment they are receiving now is what they brought upon themselves. Even Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, who were watching Jian Qingqiu with cold eyes, did not believe that the two major academies would go well in the future. They believed that those who persisted in wrongdoing would eventually destroy themselves. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi followed Huan Chuyu into the room. Huan Chuyu sat down on the chair with a calm expression, poured a cup of tea leisurely, took a sip before finally turning his gaze towards Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi. Did you both come here specifically to see me off tomorrow, knowing that I'm leaving? Hearing the slightly mocking words from Huan Chuyu, Jian Qingqiu's expression was somewhat troubled. He knew in his heart that Huan Chuyu was not a stupid person, and that he already knew what his purpose was for coming here at this moment. But now that the antidote was in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, no matter what Huan Chuyu says, he could only endure it. Indeed, knowing that Elder Huan will be leaving tomorrow, we, as old friends, have come to visit. Jian Qingqiu said slowly. Thank you, said Huan Chuyu indifferently, without much enthusiasm. When Kanglin College fell into a disadvantage back then, they often suffered ridicule and mockery from Jian Qingqiu and the Tsang Hongxi. They didn't hesitate to add insult to injury. Now that he had decided to give up everything, instead of having to swallow his pride, he could take advantage of this opportunity to hold his head up high and breathe freely. He didn't know what the Kanglin Academy would look like in the future, but he could only be sure that he would not regret the decision he made. Seeing Huan Chuyu's cold attitude, Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi couldn't help but look at each other. Despite having already guessed the possibility of everything before setting off, when it actually happened, they still felt very uncomfortable. Elder Huan, you were really too impulsive that day. We never had any intention of severing ties with Kanglin Academy, said Song Hongxi. When Huan Chuyu made this decision, he was also surprised. He didn't expect that Huan Chuyu would be reckless and take extreme measures. Huan Chuyu gave a cold sneer and said, "Isn't this what you have been striving for all these years? Now that I have granted your wish, you are not happy." Hearing Huan Chuyu's merciless words, Song Hongxi and Jian Qingqiu's expressions changed slightly. It seems that this time Huan Chuyu has really made up his mind and has no intention of changing his decision at all. Elder Huan, what you said is a bit hurtful, we didn't have such thoughts. Jian Qingqiu said hastily. In the past, Huan Chuyu might have pretended to accept this excuse, but now he didn't care. However, Jian Qingqiu's heart couldn't help but feel heavy. Huan Chuyu's words were tantamount to smashing a stone in his heart again. As Huan Chuyu said, the involvement of the royal family's power was truly terrifying. Nowadays, the royal family's influence at Lingyin Academy was less than that of the principal himself. Perhaps, in the future, Lingyin Academy will become an academy completely owned by the Qingshao Kingdom's royal family, but by the time he realized it, it would be too late. Huan Chuyu has really gone too far, said Song Hongxi with a displeased expression on his face. He had already swallowed his price by coming here today, but Huan Chuyu was still rude. Meticulous, Bewitching the next day, as soon as day broke, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up early and started preparing to leave the imperial city of Qingshao Kingdom. Xia Jiqing and the others were in a good mood. Yesterday, they were pleased to see the two principals who were usually arrogant and overbearing, leaving dejectedly. Di Beichen supported Bailey Hongzhuang as they walked out of the inn. Bailey Hongzhuang's demeanor had returned to normal, and no one could tell that she was still injured. Let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang had a warm and bright smile on her lips. She had been resting in the inn for the past few days, but today, just stepping outside and feeling the brilliant sunshine made her feel exceptionally comfortable. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang walked up to the horse and immediately prepared to mount. "Madam, wait." Di Beichen's lips curved into a warm smile as he pulled Bailey Hongzhuang back. "Your injuries have not fully healed, and the bumps from a horse are not good for your wounds." Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Not ride a horse? How will we travel then?" Di Beichen reached out and rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's head, finding her confused expression particularly adorable. Immediately afterwards, a luxurious carriage appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. The carriage was spacious and magnificent, exuding a subtle yet extravagant elegance that immediately revealed its extraordinary quality. I have no objection to your leaving the Qingshao kingdom, but your injuries require traveling by carriage. Although it is slightly slower than riding a horse, it will have less impact on your injuries. Di Beichen's voice was low and filled with tenderness as he carefully explained everything to Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want everyone to stay under the surveillance of Qingshao Kingdom's royal family, but to him, Bailey Hongzhuang's health was the most important thing. Therefore, this was the only way for them to leave. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes raised slightly, and she saw at a glance the deep and caring gaze full of love from the Di Beichen. Her heart couldn't help but ripple like waves on a lake, surging and spreading out. Xia Jiqing, Zhang Yunfeng, and others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with envy and teasing. Having an attentive and meticulous husband like Di Beichen is simply the dream of all women. This man, who combines family background, appearance, and strength, and shows such care and consideration for Bailey Hongzhuang, is truly amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with Di Beichen's sparkling and smiling star-like eyes. She nodded slightly and said, "Okay." Di Beichen helped Bailey Hongzhuang onto the carriage. As soon as she got on the carriage, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the entire carriage was lined with Huajin's soft satin, which was soft and comfortable and could minimize the impact of bumps. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She had scarcely seen Di Beichen yesterday during the day. It turns out that he had gone to help her prepare these things. Her heart felt a bit of warmth. Xia Jiqing and the others also noticed the carriage conditions and couldn't help but sigh, taking the opportunity while Di Beichen was returning to the inn to gather around Bailey Hongzhuang. "Hongzhuang, you are so fortunate to be able to find a husband like Di Beichen. It's really a blessing." Zhang Yunfeng gave a thumbs up to Bailey Hongzhuang. An excellent and perfect woman like Hongzhuang deserved to be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. "Why don't we all ride in the carriage together?" "We don't need it." Xia Jiqing playfully blinked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "This was specially prepared for you by Di Beichen." Three beasts brought out. Seeing Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng secretly giggling, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel a little helpless. But a warm smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Bai Shi was comfortably lying on a soft cushion, rolling around and squinting its eyes with a lazy and comfortable appearance. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also jumped down from Bailey Hongzhuang's head, unwilling to be left out. Their bodies transformed into the size of Bai Shi and they also rolled around the carriage. "Master, Di Beichen really cares about you, I am satisfied, ha." Xiao He hugged the fruit plate beside him, happily eating the fruit while commenting on Bailey Hongzhuang from time to time. "I think so too." Xiao Bai nodded in agreement, especially since Di Beichen had prepared so much delicious food in the carriage. It was extremely satisfied. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the excited Xiao He and Xiao Bai. These two foodies always act like children. No matter who gives them food, they always say that person is the best. Bai Shi didn't have a strong craving for fruit, but he just stretched and went to Bailey Hongzhuang to show off his cuteness. After rubbing his little head against her, he asked for a piece of demon crystal. Although food is good, demon crystals are still the most delicious. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. Her contracted beasts were all a bunch of foodies, and Bai Shi ate the least but also the most expensive food. Di Beichen quickly got into the carriage as well. His clear and handsome face revealed a warm and charming smile towards Bailey Hongzhuang. He noticed a hint of helplessness in her expression, and saw the three little ones next to her, each holding something and nibbling on it. The smile in his eyes deepened a bit. Sitting beside Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen said, "I specially prepared a lot of food for these three little guys, so you can rest assured. You are good at winning people's hearts. The three of them have all been saying good things about you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, noticing the handsome and extraordinary man beside her, who she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. The slender eyelashes cast a bit of shadow on her face like a fan, but those eyes, which are as bright as stars, were so dazzling and intoxicating. Bewitching reached out to embrace Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, the corners of his lips curved upwards. If you want to successfully capture your lady's heart, you naturally need to find a few little helpers. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed silently, but a touch of sincere gratitude appeared in her eyebrows and eyes. Thank you for preparing this for me. Bewitching's eyes flickered slightly. You are my wife, everything I do for you is only natural. She was such a beautiful woman that he would feel heartache just seeing her frown. Nangong Aochen can't hold on any longer, will Nangong Oe be like a cornered beast? Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against Bewitching's shoulder, but her gaze was fixed on the outside of the carriage. Nangong Oe's status was held in her hands in such a way, and she was afraid that Nangong Oe would not be able to bear it. In the end, it is not impossible for him to die from the exposure. The majestic ruler of a country, yet he suffered such a great loss because of a student like her. Even his most cherished son is now on the verge of death. He may not be able to bear such humiliation. Don't worry, he doesn't dare. The low and magnetic voice was filled with a reassuring power, as if his presence alone could hold up the sky for Bailey Hongzhuang, easing her worries about everything. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, she always believed what Bewitching said. Although they experienced some risks by coming to Qingshao Kingdom, fortunately, it has brought her closer to Bewitching's heart. Blood-stained abyss. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang expected, when their team left the Qingshao Kingdom Imperial City, Nangong Oe could no longer bear it. However, even though he is a ruler of the kingdom, the royal family was not solely governed by him. Even though he wanted to go all out and do something, the elders in the royal family wouldn't allow it. Therefore, he could only watch as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left the imperial city unharmed. Before Bailey Hongzhuang and others left, Nangong Aochen couldn't hold on any longer. Even though the royal family searched for famous doctors, no one could unravel this strange poison. This made Nangong Oe extremely angry. It was unbelievable that the poison produced by a young cultivator could stump so many people. As Bailey Hongzhuang had previously warned, after Nangong Oe stayed with Nangong Aochen often, he began to feel somewhat uncomfortable. The imperial physician diagnosis was that Nangong Oe's condition was the same as Nangong Aochen's. It turned out to be a contagious poison. The entire royal family was shocked. How terrifying would it be to have a contagious poison? It was the crown prince first, and now it is the emperor. The Qingshao Kingdom's royal family was really facing a huge crisis this time. Nangong Oe had been skeptical of what Chu Jiao and the others had said before, but when this situation really happened, he realized that it was already too late. After learning this news, Chu Jiao and other two were shaken. They had always believed what Bailey Hongzhuang said, but when this really happened, they were shocked. It was terrifying that Bailey Hongzhuang actually had such a poison in her possession. While the royal family of the Qingshao Kingdom was in such turmoil, Bailey Hongzhuang and others had already left, and they no longer had anything to do with the Qingshao Kingdom whatsoever. Wife, are you planning to go back to Kanglin Academy after leaving Qingshao Kingdom? Bewitching asked, turning his head and looking at Bailey Hongzhuang tenderly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows slightly and asked, "What do you mean by asking me this? You have already broken through to the Red Realm. There is a place for experience that will be helpful to you, but it is also dangerous. However, I will accompany you. Do you want to go?" Hearing this, a look of interest appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. "What is it?" she asked. "The blood-stained abyss," came the reply. Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself, she had never heard of the blood-stained abyss, but just hearing its name, she knew that this place was not simple. What's in the blood-stained abyss? A look of interest flashed in her black, bright phoenix eyes. She was very interested just from hearing the name. From Bewitching's gaze, she could tell that this place would be helpful to her, so it would naturally be a very good place, but just from its name, it made her feel a little bloody. The blood-stained abyss is located in a deep abyss in Snow City. Originally, this place was called the Snowfield Abyss, but it was renamed the Blood-Stained Abyss after it was stained with too much blood. The Blood-Stained Abyss is a very peculiar place where many heinous people gather. There are no rules there, and the only law is strength. It's bloody and violent. However, there is a 9-story tower in the Blood-Stained Abyss which holds a mysterious inheritance. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She immediately understood that Di Beichen's purpose for letting her go was to obtain this inheritance. After all, every inheritance has been refined over thousands of tests and trials, so this inheritance should not be simple either. The miraculous inheritance, what kind of inheritance? The delicate and perfect face shone with curiosity and interest. Just listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew that the blood-stained abyss had existed for a long time. To be able to gather so many heinous people there, it was likely that the place was in an area that was not governed by any authority, otherwise such a place would not exist at all. Madam, since stepping into the Red Realm, you should be aware of the existence of coercion, right? Di Beichen calmly explained to Bailey Hongzhuang. As he had expected, his wife was very interested in this. Not only did she never feel the slightest bit of fear of the blood in the blood-stained abyss, on the contrary, she didn't feel the slightest bit of fear, and was in fact a little impatient. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, "Coercion is the suppression of the weak by the strong through their aura. Under this coercion, the strength of the weak will be limited and it will affect their combat effectiveness. For the strong, coercion can be a very advantageous tool. It can create an absolute advantage, as the strong don't even need to make a move. They can just release their coercion and cause trouble for their opponents." That's right. In this blood-stained abyss, there is a kind of miraculous inheritance similar to coercion. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened a little. How could there be such an inheritance in the world? The 3 abysses of the Xingxian continent are the blood-stained abyss, the abyss of magic refinement, and the abyss of the sea of bitterness. These 3 abysses have 3 inheritances, each of which is very difficult to obtain. Among them, the blood-stained abyss has the lowest threshold for its trial. You can try it if you reach the Red Realm cultivation level. Over the years, after numerous discoveries by cultivators, they determined that only the Red Realm cultivation level has the greatest possibility of inheritance. The higher the cultivation level, the less likely one will be able to obtain the inheritance. Hearing Di Beichen's description, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was shaken. She never thought that there were these 3 abysses in the Xingxian continent. Just hearing the names gave her the feeling that these 3 abysses were not simple, and the existence of such an inheritance was really strange. So, does that mean only cultivators at the Red Realm can attempt to obtain the heritage of the blood-stained abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Usually, the stronger the cultivator's strength, the easier it would be for them to obtain the inheritance. However, it was strange that there were such cultivation restrictions in the blood-stained abyss. Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, "Among the 3 great abysses, the blood-stained abyss has the most people trying, so it is relatively easier to obtain the inheritance. However, this so-called easier is relative to the other 2 abysses. In fact, there are very few who can obtain the inheritance. Even if you can't obtain the inheritance, it's a good choice to go to the blood-stained abyss and gain some experience." Di Beichen understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's desire was to become stronger. The Lan family is a huge obstacle for Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, he wanted to accompany Bailey Hongzhuang on her journey of growth and become stronger with her. "I'll go." Bailey Hongzhuang made the decision without hesitation. How could she not go to such a magical place? Regardless of whether she could obtain an inheritance or not, it would be great to just experience it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's decisive decision, Di Beichen smiled and said, "Okay, we will go together. Can you tell me about the abyss of magic refinement and the abyss of the sea of bitterness?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen curiously with her eyes as bright as water, these kind of places sounded extraordinary. Blood-stained abyss, she has taken a fancy to it. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was so interested, Di Beichen continued to describe it to her. The abyss of magic refinement also has a kind of inheritance, but it can only be attempted after reaching the blue realm. Because the threshold is extremely high, there are far fewer people in the abyss of magic refinement than in the blood-stained abyss. However, the cultivators who appear in the abyss of magic refinement are all strong, and a careless move could cost them their lives. The inheritance obtained in the blood-stained abyss is the blood chi aura. Once released, the opponent will be surrounded by endless blood chi. Humans instinctively resist blood, and such a dense blood chi can completely crush the opponent's spirit. Once the blood chi aura is used, the opponent's strength will also be suppressed to a certain extent, but the specific situation depends on the opponent's willpower. What a powerful chi aura, this is a great weapon for cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood the power of this blood chi aura. In combat, this alone could intimidate many opponents. Di Beichen smiled faintly, playing with Bailey Hongzhuang's soft delicate hands and slender fingers. You seem to be particularly interested in these things, he said. I am a cultivator, so naturally, I am very interested in these things, Bailey Hongzhuang replied, shaking her little head nonchalantly. She was in love with this blood chi aura. Naturally, there is no need to say much about the power of this blood aura. One can tell by the number of people in the blood-stained abyss. However, both the blood-stained abyss and the abyss of magic refinement are equally bloody and cruel, and countless people die there every year. So, after you go there, you must follow me closely. There was a flash of nervousness and seriousness in Di Beichen's eyes, and even the hand holding Bailey Hongzhuang tightened. He understood that it was almost impossible for a cultivator not to encounter danger in the process of growth, but the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang suffered such serious injuries this time made him extremely anxious. The danger of going to the blood-stained abyss this time was inevitable, but with him around, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely not be in danger. Sensing Di Beichen's tension and worry, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes softened a little, and she wrapped her hands around Di Beichen's neck, leaning on his chest. Don't worry, I'll listen to you. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle words, Di Beichen's tense body relaxed a bit. He never wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang get hurt again. The inheritance of the blood-stained abyss is the blood chi aura, so what is the inheritance of the abyss of magic refinement? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. The inheritance of abyss of magic refinement is the murderous aura. The power of the murderous aura is more terrifying than the blood chi aura. Once the murderous aura is released, the opponent will be surrounded by endless killing intent. The deterrent power is greater and the lethality is stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. The dense killing intent alone was enough to make a person fearful, and when the killing intent formed into an aura, she could imagine the extent of its power. However, there have only been 3 individuals who were able to obtain the murderous aura in the entire Xingxian continent, and no one else has appeared again. Di Beichen's voice was filled with a bit of emotion. This kind of inheritance makes people jealous, but it is also incredibly difficult to obtain. Bailey Hongzhuang appeared calm and indifferent. The existence of such an aura was already extremely extraordinary. Although it was only 3 people, the strength of these 3 people had greatly improved. These 3 people should all be famous figures of the Xingxian continent, right? Not bad. Between you and me, there is no need to worry or hide anything. These 3 people achieved great fame in the history of Xingxian continent, but it's been a long time, and they are no longer in this world. Di Beichen's lips curved into a warm and charming smile, and his arms tightened around Bailey Hongzhuang. Normally, Bailey Hongzhuang always had a strong and resilient appearance, but now her gaze filled with curiosity made him feel loved and happy. His Hongzhuang, his wife, would only show such a side to him. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head lightly, and a glimmer of contemplation appeared in her clear eyes. It seems that 1,000 years is enough time for many things to happen. In her past, the three abysses did not exist, but the Xingxian continent was a vast territory and had abundant resources, always containing many hidden places. If she hadn't liked exploring back then, she wouldn't have traveled here because of the Ring of Chaos. Since you're so familiar with the blood-stained abyss, have you been there? Bai Li Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow over her phoenix eyes. It seems that Bewitching must be someone who frequently undergoes training and experiences. Even though Bewitching is the young master of Tiangang's sect, the higher his status, the more heavier the burden. In a sect, how numerous are the outstanding cultivators? Bewitching can only solidify his position by constantly improving his own strength and not letting anyone catch up. Come to think of it, based on his thorough understanding of the blood-stained abyss, he must have been there. Bewitching's lips curled up in a warm and mellow smile, as his gaze, clear and focused, looked beyond the carriage, faintly revealing a hint of yearning and nostalgia. Back then, it was Master who told me about the situation in the blood-stained abyss. He was also the one who took me there for the first time. Bai Li Hongzhuang noticed Bewitching's expression, and her eyes gradually softened. It seems that Bewitching's master is a significant figure to him, both as a father and a teacher, holding great importance in his life. Suddenly, Bai Li Hongzhuang realized that all along, she only knew that Bewitching was raised by his master, but she had never heard anything about Bewitching's parents. Why is that? For a moment, Bai Li Hongzhuang's mind was filled with various thoughts, but she couldn't be sure if her conjecture was correct. When Bewitching refocused, he noticed Bai Li Hongzhuang's distraction. Affectionately, he reached out and waved his hand in front of Bai Li Hongzhuang's eyes. "Wife, why are you thinking so seriously?" Bai Li Hongzhuang snapped out of her thoughts, a sweet smile appearing on her lips. "It's nothing." Although Bai Li Hongzhuang didn't say anything, Bewitching noticed the flash of doubt and complexity in Bai Li Hongzhuang's eyes. Obviously, Bai Li Hongzhuang must have some thoughts. Bewitching's expression was gentle, and his thin lips parted lightly. "Wife, if there is anything you wish to say, you can tell me. Between you and me, there is no need to worry or hide anything." Bai Li Hongzhuang's heart stirred slightly. Bewitching had always been able to understand her emotions. Although she had hidden them very quickly, Bewitching still noticed. However, it's not that Bewitching was skilled at grasping people's hearts, but rather that he paid special attention to Bai Li Hongzhuang. Bewitching paid attention to her every move. That was why he caught the fleeting change in her eyes. Bai Li Hongzhuang leaned on Bewitching's shoulder, her left hand wrapped around his waist. Only then did Bai Li Hongzhuang raise her head and look at him. Seeing Bai Li Hongzhuang's appearance, Bewitching knew that he was right. The broad palm indulgently rubbed Bai Li Hongzhuang's head and said, "Ask me." You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.